What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Folks, the news story that will not go away. It is here to stay forever. It will be in regular rotation on this channel for a pretty good while. Like I said, check this out, y'all. Kilmar Abrego Garcia to remain in jail while attorneys debate whether he'll be deported if released. This one is fascinating because they're making an assertion that makes absolutely no sense on this. But let's get into it. Kilmar Abrego Garcia will remain in jail for at least a few more days while attorneys in the federal smuggling case against him spar over whether prosecutors have the ability to prevent Abrego Garcia's deportation if he is released to await trial. That's fascinating. Now, hang on. We just had this big old uproar, a circus fest, if you will. Yeah, a circus festival, by the way. I know. But we had this giant circus fest about Kilmar Abrego Garcia being mistakenly deported. And, Democrats gnashing their teeth until their teeth grinded down into dust about, you need to bring him back. And now that he's back, they're gnashing their teeth again. Yeah, I said teeths, not anything else. I should have said something different, but I chose teeths. Oops. I guess that's what you get when you improv everything, right? When you just go right off the cuff, off the top of your head, and you don't script a damn thing. That's what happens, folks. You make mistakes.
Whoops. Whoopsies.
The Salvadorian national whose mistaken deportation became a flashpoint in the fight over President Donald Trump's immigration policies has been in jail since he was returned to the U.S. on June 7th, facing 2 counts of human smuggling. Although a federal judge has ruled that he has the right to be released even set specific conditions for his release, his attorneys expressed concern that it would lead to immediate detention by ICE and deportation. Why? Right, like I was saying a minute ago and got sidetracked. Why would they go to all the trouble of getting this guy back into the United States just to deport him again? Why would they bring him back specifically for prosecution of crimes that he committed while he was in the United States? Why would they then, before the trial starts, he's already pled not guilty in arraignment, before the trial starts, deport him back to El Salvador? They would have to bring him back for his court hearing. Don't you think that's a bit silly? But once again, the corporate press, they manipulate everything. Here in a little while, they're going to try to make you believe that it's the government that is threatening to deport him. It's not them just making this up off the top of their head. Yeah, the way they phrase it, it's there. But once again, you gotta pull the curtains back, several layers of curtains, just to see exactly what they're talking about. And they're like, so once again, when I first read this, I had to read it a couple of times. I'm like, hang on, no. They're trying to make me believe that the government is going to deport this guy. But it's not. It's his attorneys that are just making that assertion. Or it's the corporate press. But I think it's his attorneys in the corporate press has just taken that statement that they're in fear that he'll be deported and mixed it around with some other stuff to make you believe that it's the government is fighting with itself. Do we want to keep him here for trial and keep him in jail, or do we want to deport him just so we can bring him right back for his court date? On Sunday, U.S. Magistrate Judge Barbara Holmes ruled that Abrego Garcia does not have to remain in jail ahead of that trial. On Wednesday afternoon, she will set his conditions of his release and allow him to go, according to her order. However, his defense attorneys and prosecutors have said they expect him to be taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement as soon as he is released on the criminal charges. Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, said during a news conference before Wednesday's scheduled court hearing that it's been 106 days since he was abducted by the Trump administration and separated from our family. She noted that he has missed family birthdays, graduations, Father's Day, while today he misses our wedding anniversary. And whose fault is that, by the way? Who is the person that entered the country illegally? Who is the person that decided not to leave the country when he got his final orders of deportation. It's not Donald Trump. It's not the ICE agents that work for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's none of those people. It's not Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. It's not her. It's not Alejandro Mayorkas, who was the previous secretary. I wonder whose fault this all is. It's his own fault, by the way. And her fault for marrying a criminal alien and having children with that criminal alien. Once again, folks, these people, this is why Donald Trump's birthright citizenship executive order is so important for the Supreme Court to litigate, because that needs to be decided. And I think they need to side with the Trump administration. Anybody that comes into the country illegally for the sole purpose of having kids to anchor themselves to this country through their children do not deserve that citizenship. Once again, it's like entering a cheat code. They are cheating the system. Vasquez Sura said their love, their faith in God, and an abundance of community support have helped them persevere. Kilmar should have never been taken away from us, she said. This fight has been the hardest thing in my life. Federal prosecutors are appealing Holmes's release order. Among other things, they expressed concern in a motion filed on Sunday that Abrego Garcia could be deported before he faces trial. Holmes has said that she won't step between the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security. It's up to them to decide whether they want to deport Abrego Garcia or prosecute him. That's the paragraph right there, folks. They're making it sound like it's the judge, actually, that's making it sound like, hang on, she's not going to get in the way if the Department of Homeland Security wants to deport this guy. But they never said they were going to deport this guy, folks. Never. Right? They brought him here specifically to face charges for crimes that he probably committed. Allegedly committed. We'll put it that way. So, with that being the case, what logical sense would it make for them to deport the guy when knowing they would have to bring him back once again for his court date? It's insane. But this is the manipulation of the corporate press. They're trying to manipulate you into thinking that the Trump administration is just a bunch of Looney Tunes characters. It is insane. Abrego Garcia pled not guilty on June 13th to smuggling charges that his attorneys have characterized as an attempt to justify his mistaken deportation in March to a notorious prison in El Salvador. Now think about that for a second. Oh, they brought him back and are charging him with human smuggling for the sole purpose of justifying a completely justified deportation. That, I'll give them this, I'll be fair, there was an administrative error that they forgot to give him a USCIS interview. That's what happened. That's how this whole mistaken deportation thing came around. Because when you hear mistaken deportation, you think, well, they deported the wrong person, right? That's the inference, at least. But that's not the case. The mistake was they forgot to give an interview, and he was deported. So what they do, they're just conflating two different things, or they're actually just combining two different things. That, there was a mistake with his deportation. That would be a fair statement. That would be a fair headline, or a fair statement in the news article itself. There was a mistake with his deportation, but instead of typing all that, they just said that's a mistaken deportation. Once again, folks, you gotta love the clever ways the corporate press can micro-manipulate you into believing some weird narrative that Democrats come up with, some insane nonsense. Those charges stem from a 2022 traffic stop for speeding in Tennessee, during which Abrego Garcia was driving a vehicle with 9 passengers. At his detention hearing, Homeland Security Special Agent Peter Joseph testified that he did not begin investigating Abrego Garcia until April of this year. Yeah, that's because the evidence only surfaced publicly. I think in April, if my memory serves. Holmes said in her Sunday ruling that federal prosecutors failed to show that Abrego Garcia was a flight risk or a danger to the community. He has lived for more than a decade in Maryland, where he and his American wife are raising 3 children. So an alleged MS-13 gang member, somebody who was alleged to have smuggled criminal aliens all throughout the country, is not a flight risk? It's not a danger to the community? MS-13. Once again, folks, activist judges doing active things, I guess. However, Holmes referred to her own ruling as little more than an academic exercise, noting that ICE plans to detain him. It is less clear what will happen after that. This is funny. See, this is where I think they're just making stuff up, because ICE, they're making up the whole deportation things, because ICE does plan on detaining him because they don't want this guy to roam free. They see him as a flight risk. He is not a U.S. citizen. He is in the country illegally. So, if the jail is not going to detain him, somebody is going to detain him. And once again, it's the corporate press. They're trying to make you believe that all this other nonsense BS that, oh, the judge released him, but ICE is going to come in, the Gestapo over here, with their brown shirts and detain this guy and throw him in the lockup. It's insane, it really is. It is less clear what will happen after that. Although Abrego Garcia can't be deported to El Salvador, not true, where an immigration judge found he faces a credible threat from gangs, he is still deportable to a third country as long as the country agrees to not send him to El Salvador. That's not true, folks. That is what the USCIS interview was supposed to be for, as a matter of fact, to notify him that, hey, the situation with your credible fears in El Salvador has vastly changed, rapidly, under Bukele, so that gang that you feared, hey, they no longer exist in the country, so you can most certainly go back to your home country without fear. That's what the USCIS interview was supposed to be for, and then he was going to go bye-bye. But, once again, the corporate press, they don't tell you these things. They don't want you to be knowledgeable. They don't want you armed with the information to make an informed decision about what the Trump administration is doing. What they want to do is to portray Donald Trump and all Republicans as evil, once again, and we're not going to mention Democrats on this one at all. Yeah, why mention Democrats? That would only muck up the waters a bit, because Democrats will usually come in and step on a rake and then fall over backwards and break a bunch of china or something like that. And then, it'd be like a Rube Goldberg thing. A bunch of bad crap happens, because that's what Democrats are currently doing right now. They're consistently just Rube Goldberging their way through life. Just everything, and it's all like breakable stuff. Like, it's not just some fascinating set of circumstances that just so happen to end up with a cup of coffee. No, it ends up with the nuke exploding, for crying out loud. Like, Democrats, they're, like I said, they're just lost in the desert, and Moses is sitting over there at Starbucks drinking coffee. So what it seems like to me, they're just, the Israelites in the desert just don't have a leader and don't know where they're going, and there's no hopes for them at all right now. They need somebody to parachute in and lead them out of the desert. And that's what we're hoping videos like this will do, is lead them out of the desert, to show them, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, and you need to stop doing it. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Y'all don't forget, smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. And look, share this video all over the place and any and everywhere. Like at the same time, to be precise, right? Y'all do that for me. Sign up, become a member, help the channel explode and grow so we can get the message out there. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.